Good morning, folks. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. We're going back to that horrible world known as the JRC, but before we do, apparently last night, before I decided to go to bed, all hell decided to break loose. So what am I talking about here? I'm talking about the missiles that accidentally crossed over into Poland. And I am seeing the GOP fall all over themselves to sit there. Biden's gonna push us into World War III, and you all sound like fucking Neville Chamberlain from back in the day. You know how these Republicans, they like to tote World War II as though they themselves fought in it, right? They glorify Churchill and the leaders of that time, with not even a hint of internal dialogue, internal self-searching. You know what I mean? They sit there, he's going to do this, he's going to get that, he's going to start World War III. You sound like Chamberlain, okay? You fuckers sound like Chamberlain. You cannot hold up Winston Churchill on one hand, who motherfucking warned us and the rest of the world about Hitler and what he was up to. You can't hold him up. And then on the other hand, start this Chamberlain bullshit sitting there telling us how Biden's going to step us into World War III. I don't know if you noticed, but starting about around within February of last year, the die has already been cast. Okay? It wasn't Biden who did that shit. And the fact that I'm sitting here watching Republicans, gung-ho Republicans, warmongering Republicans, who bent over backwards to make apologies for Dick Cheney and George Bush, those same people, all gung-ho to tear Iraq apart for something that they weren't even fucking involved in. Those people are now pedaling backwards to kiss Putin's ass faster than I've ever seen. Did nobody learn anything from the lessons of World War II? Appeasement doesn't fucking work. And if you idiots think that Putin just cares about Ukraine, you all do not pay attention to even recent history. What the hell did the country of Georgia do to deserve the invasion from Russia? Nothing. Nothing. They are still recovering from this day from the damage that was done. Okay? I'm tired of people with their alternative facts because they want to use it as a political means to springboard themselves into power. These people don't need any more power. They have already fucked us over with the power that they already got. Okay? This is not on Biden. He did not start this shit. Russia did. And for those who say, no, Zelensky started it because of what they did to the Russian Ukrainians. Okay. I do not have all the facts on that. Fair. Okay? I can admit that I do not have all the facts on that. But how does that justify starting a full-scale war in basically targeting the civilians of Ukraine? What did they have to do with what was going on in Donbass? Nothing. They were just trying to live their lives. Russia did not target the specific area that they were claiming such horrible things were going on. Okay? There was no strategic strikes. It was full-on invasion. Okay? There's a big fucking difference between the two of them. And to sit there and watch the GOP fall all over themselves, to act like fucking Chamberlain, after glorifying Churchill, you do realize that said gentleman would be shaking his head at all of you right now, right? This is not a game. There is no appeasement that can be done that is going to stop this, okay? This happened, and you all are looking more and more pathetic by the second. By the second. I'm not saying I want World War III. This generation could not handle a world war. This generation has grown up in wealth and privilege where the news has taught them to substitute real facts for what they prefer. We have a generation of folks who have basically been allowed to live in la la land. These kids are not fucking prepared for a world war. They're not. They're just not. We are not ready for a draft or the sacrifices that, like, my grandparents had to make. Okay? I'm not a warmonger. I am a student of history, however. I know for a fact appeasement only emboldens the enemy. It doesn't check them. Appeasement does nothing but make a country look fucking weak, and it makes NATO look absolutely useless. If there is nothing done, if we just ignore this, if we just push it down the road, Putin's going to push again. And he's going to push again, and he's going to push again, because he's trying to see where the line will be drawn. And if we keep acting like a bunch of weak little bastards, what you think he's going to do? What do you think he's going to do? Learn your history. And for these older Republicans who, some of them were alive during that era, they should really fucking know better. They should really know better. Appeasement doesn't work. Giving the enemy allowance after mulligan after mulligan doesn't work. You're basically acting like Eric Schmidt and kicking the can down the road, hopefully that things will resolve themselves. They don't. They don't resolve themselves. They build and build and build until it explodes. Something's gotta give. And appeasement and sitting there and saying, but it was just two people in a cornfield and you want to start World War III over that? No, I don't. I don't think this generation could handle it. I really don't. And I've not seen anything to convince me to the contrary. On the same end, if we do nothing, Russia respects strength, wealth, and power. If NATO does nothing, if we do nothing, it makes us look weak. Okay? Something's got to be done. I don't know what. I'm not a world leader. But you can't just draw a line in the sand and then they step over it and then you move back that line again. How many times are we going to move the line back? Okay? Read your history. And for those in the GOP who are old enough to have fucking know better, shame on you. How dare you use this, the death of 2 fucking innocent people, as a political talking point to attack Biden? How sick are you? I'm not the man's biggest fan in the world, but you know what? This is bullshit, and you all know it. And then you're going to say, Trump will save us from what? What? Putin's little puppet? You think he's going to stop anything? Really? Because guess what? A majority of this buildup was happening underneath his watch. Wars don't happen all at once. They happen bit by bit over time. Trump did nothing to stop it. Now you want to blame the guy who inherited his fucking mess and foreign relation failures? Yeah, you can fuck right off with that. Alright, now let's get back. Fuck me. Speaking of war crimes, in the description box, folks, you're going to find a link to the article that the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center doesn't want you to read. It's written by NeuroClastic, a small non-for-profit started by autistics for autistics, wherein they interviewed and surveyed over 900 ABA professionals in regards to the JRC's quote-unquote behavioral modification program. Matter of fact, the JRC doesn't want you reading this article so much, they have threatened NeuroClastic with a defamation lawsuit if they do not remove it from the website. NeuroClastic has refused to comply, so you know the drill. Please read that article and share on all your social media. Ugh. We also have the link to the public statement made by NeuroClastic in regards to the defamation lawsuit threat, as well as a link to their GoFundMe. We are crowdfunding, folks, in case the JRC actually has the balls to see through with their threat. Also, we have all the pertinent links and we also have a link to their change.org Good God, I can't think. I can't brain. This is what I'm dealing with this morning. This thing has got me so incensed at the goddamn GOP, their stupidity, their appeasement. They are not the party of strength, folks. They are not the party of strength. And it shows right now. It shows big time. What happened between now and the Bush administration? You lose your balls? Are you more acting in the style of appeasement because it's not a small country with not near the funding or the war machine to be able to put behind it? Y'all act high and mighty and strong when it's a small country that can't really defend itself against us. But then, if it's an actual country that's got a real military, all of a sudden you fucking tuck tail and run like little scared bastards that you are. Sorry. Back to what I was saying. Sorry. Preoccupied. I apologize. Okay. We also have a link to their GoFundMe. We are crowdfunding, folks, just in case the JRC has the balls to see through with their threat. We got the pertinent links to the Agape boarding school situation as well. Agape boarding school is a Christian-themed boarding school based out of Stockton, Missouri, that takes in so-called troubled male teens. We've had one staff member arrested by the FBI. That has and pending over 21 civil lawsuits, claims, and allegations leveled against it, all which have been substantiated by the private investigation done by the Missouri Department of Social Services. These allegations include sodomy, rape, sexual assault, child abuse, psychological, emotional abuse and torture, starvation, and child trafficking. We've had one former staff member arrested by the FBI, another, a doctor who still lives on the premises with full access on the boys, facing jail time due to claims substantiated by, again, the Missouri Department of Social Services, several counts of sodomy, rape, and sexual assault of the boys there. You have someone who used to be the Attorney General who kicked the can down the road until he could get his cushy Senate seat. I do hope they fucking eat you alive in Washington, Eric Schmidt. You got a governor out here who's lost his goddamn marbles, and now this guy has full control over the Missouri State National Guard. So, folks, please share those articles on all your social media. Don't forget to sign and share the change.org Shut Agape Boarding School Down petition. We got the other pertinent links to the Stop the Shocks campaign as well, including Autistic Hoya's massive archive on the subject, Jennifer Masampa's behavioral sheet for shockable offenses. You also have a clip of the 7-hour ordeal on Gone by Andre McCollins back in 2002, the templates, and the ever-present self-explanatory change.org Shut the Judge Rotenberg Center Down petition. When we discuss the JRC, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch clips of surveillance footage of people with disabilities being tortured and abused. If you got young children present, please use your headphones. This channel is marked not for children for a reason. We use profanity and talk about dark subjects. If your child is 16 and younger, parental supervision is advised, all right? Trigger warning. We are about to listen to the ravings of a lunatic mind that is Dr. Matthew Israel. You're going to hear ableism. You're going to hear victim blaming. You're going to be hearing gaslighting and abuse apologencia galore. So just know that, all right? Just know that. It is 8:59 a.m. in the morning, and I'm drinking, again, this herbal concoction, which is gross, but helps keep me from having a cold, because nothing's worse than walking a call center job when you have a cold. Trust me on that one. So if I stumble over my words, folks, apologies in advance, all right? Also, apologies about my appearance. I don't always look that great in the morning. All right, so here we go. JRC has a 39-year history of freeing hundreds of children and adults from the deadly grip of sedatives, restraint, seclusion, and institutional warehousing. No, you don't. And there, ladies and gentlemen, is a lie. Let's talk about the JRC, shall we? They rip these kids off medications. Medications designed to deal specifically with misfiring brainwaves, okay? What do I mean by that? Remember how I told you proper medication, when married with proper therapy, is a beautiful thing. You can't expect the medication to work by itself. You can't just throw pills at a problem and expect it to go away. It's not how it works. Pills are a band-aid, okay? They cannot be just used on their own, or it completely defeats the purpose. Do they help with the symptoms? Yes. And in some cases, especially in extreme cases, are extremely necessary. But if it is not married with proper therapy and medical treatment along with it, they are basically as good as useless. Okay? Pills are not going to find your triggers. Therapy does. Introspection does. Honest conversations with doctors does. Pills can't do anything on their own without the work being put in. And as far as restraint and seclusion and institutional warehousing, all three of these the JRC is guilty of. You can't sit there and tell us that you are freeing them from restraint when you are known to throw a kid on a 4-point board face down with a helmet on and shock him within an inch of his life into catatonia? How was Andre McCollins free from restraint? How was Linda Cornelison freed from restraint? What about the first death at the JRC, which happened due to improper restraints done with fucking belts at a helmet, and the gentleman died of asphyxiation? But oh no, we're freeing them from restraint. If you literally have a fucking restraint chair where you tie them up like they're fucking Hannibal Lecter, if you literally have a chair that you strap them to shock the shit out of them, how is this being free from restraint? Let's talk about seclusion. This brings up the point of what Jennifer Masumba calls on her blog, loss of privileges. You know, where they're punished for having behaviors for being shocked. You want to talk about seclusion? What about the fact that they are not allowed to speak to anyone unless spoken to or asked a direct question by staff? What about the fact that if they are on loss of privileges, they do not have access to their counselors or therapists? What about the fact that when they are on loss of privileges, they're not even allowed to talk to their housemates? And if they do, they are punished. Sounds like seclusion to me. Institutional warehousing. I know for a fact, JRC, that you have left kids in restraints for hours on end. Matter of fact, it's one of the reasons you're no longer allowed to operate in the state of California. And yes, we have the fucking court documents on that. These kids were known to be left outside for hours, no bathroom breaks, nothing, forced to soil themselves. It's why they are no longer able to operate in the state of California. The same ship was found in Rhode Island. And I bet if we got the time to do a lengthy undercover investigation into the JRC, we would find the same behavior going on there as well. The matter of the fact is the JRC is guilty of everything that they are alleging in that sentence. What do we call this when they want to sit there and point the finger at other institutional and psychiatric hospitals when they are indeed not only guilty of it, but guilty of it in a capacity that is way beyond the psychiatric hospitals right now? It's called projection. They are projecting their sins onto others. They want you to believe they're freeing those kids when in actuality they are actually engaging in the same shit that the institutions did years ago. And no amount of bad acid trip decorating is going to change that. Let's move on here. JRC's intricate 24-hour behavioral system of rewards for desired behaviors supplemented with aversives required works effectively in cases where every other treatment has failed. It gives each student a chance to learn positive behaviors such as reading. What the actual fuck? Mother of God. It's stick and carrot, JRC. You get to eat this bite of dinner if you behave. If you disbehave, I'm going to torture you like you're a war criminal. Your idea and mine of effective, JRC, are two different things. My idea of effective is you attack a problem at its root. You get to the root. You don't punish the byproducts. Your system leaves the initiating issue, the root cause, undealt with. So what does that mean when the root cause is still undealt with? That means after they are far away from the torture, that issue is still there. And now, on top of it, you have these kids traumatized within an inch of their lives. You're surprised when they regress when they go off the device? You say they wouldn't have regressed if they stayed on the device? Yeah, that's a lie. How this guy had a fucking psychiatrist license or psychology license is far beyond me, because he doesn't really seem to understand how any of this actually works. It doesn't work effectively. Getting your desired result out of fear is not a permanent solution. Anybody who's a student of world history can fucking tell you that. If the root cause remains undealt with and ignored, and all you're doing is basically teaching us how to mask, the problem doesn't go away. It's wishful thinking married with torture. Okay? It does not work. And you can sit there and say every other treatment has failed all you want to, but it's a lie. Because person-centered planning, Dr. Israel will tell you that's an untried philosophy. In 2010, my state had been using person-centered planning circa starting all the way back in 2006. We were rolling it out statewide by the time I took my position as advocacy specialist back in 2008. And when I say we had data, we had data. I could see the numbers behind my eyelids when I go to bed at night. We had the data. You cannot tell me you've tried everything when you don't even know what the alternatives are. Particularly positive behavioral reinforcement, a byproduct of ABA, which is still absolutely ridiculous, but at least it's better than this shit here. For those of you who don't understand, ABA is not the only fucking thing out there. Doing nothing but ABA is not trying everything. When ABA fails, throwing them into a psychiatric hospital deeply embedded in the medical model, where even the doctors don't necessarily know. Yes, I hate to tell you, your doctors are not fucking perfect. A good majority of them out there do not know that these other programs even exist. Okay? You have not tried everything. You don't even understand what the alternatives are, let alone actually utilize them. So do not tell me you've tried everything. You haven't. You dismiss every other single program out there, doctor. If you're dismissing something, if you won't even fucking try it, that's not trying everything. That's just basic logic. Let's read more on here. And oh my god, the reading thing. Okay, so let me tell you all a story. This is what people think of people like me. They think it's a modern miracle if we can read. Fuckers, I read when I started reading when I was 3. Okay? Somehow society has got it in their head that we can't read, can't do anything. All we do is sit there, scream, and act with violence. Yeah. It's fun dealing with that level of prejudice and stupid on the daily. Let me tell you about a particular incident. This was my director of my regional office. We were at the borough building. They were basically introducing their pilot project. This was just when they were beginning to start getting up their Office for Autism Services and kind of getting the state involved. Everything's kind of married out here, folks. The Missouri Department of Developmental Disabilities and Mental Health and Borough and all the ARC, we're all kind of married, conglomerated together, right? So we were outside, but waiting to go into this particular meeting. There was a patient there, a young kid. Mother was talking to us, talking about how that the kid had autism. My director turns to me. My director fully knows I was a self-advocate with an autism spectrum disorder diagnosis. Turns to me and says, that person can't be autistic. They can read. Yeah. That's the level of stupid that I've had to deal with. It is quite ridiculous to me. Because those of us with this diagnosis, the people that I've met, yes, including nonverbals, the most severe, are some of the most sharp, intelligent, well thought, logical, analytical, brilliant fucking minds I've ever come across in my life. They are intelligent, they're aware, they know what bullshit you're talking on them when you do your stupid bullshit April scare tactics for Autism Speaks. Yeah, nonverbal doesn't mean stupid. And by the way, what a way to run down people with intellectual disabilities, you fucking bastards. When I tell you society is ableist and basically looks at us disabled people as disposable, especially those of us with mental disabilities, this is what I'm talking about. We're throwaway people to them. That is, unless they can actually make money off our backs. I don't need to be fucking shocked within an inch of my life to learn how to read, Mr. Israel. Okay? Matter of fact, the threat of torture is going to be detrimental to me receiving a better education. How the fuck am I supposed to focus on what I'm supposed to learn when I am living under the threat of being shocked and thrown at a 4-point board at any time because Susie is cranky and didn't get her second cup of coffee? How's a kid supposed to focus? When a child is on loss of privileges and is not allowed to eat breakfast because of behaviors, what do we know about breakfast, folks? Kids that go hungry in the mornings are less able to concentrate on the lessons than those who are coming to school on a full stomach. This is why we have school breakfast programs for those who aren't as privileged as others. JRC's shit is so backwards they don't even see it. This is another way they see us as subhuman, by the way. Let me make my point here. The JRC, ABA, they don't see us as human. They know these facts. They've been around since the early 90s. We all know that a child focuses and is more able to pay attention to the lesson plan if they're fully fed. People like the JRC don't even feel like we should be educated. They don't feel like we are smart enough to be able to understand. So they don't feed us. So they make us earn every bite of food. Because to them, we're not children. We're animals to be controlled. No, they'll tell you all the pretty words in the world. But if you actually look at it, they don't treat us as humans. Dogs get treated better than we do. Dogs get treated. At least they get to eat their fucking 3 square meals a day. Sure, they might have to behave and they'll get an extra treat, but at least they're being fed regularly. We have to earn it. This is not teaching us positive behaviors. It is teaching us that we are not human in the eyes of people like Dr. Israel. He does not believe we deserve the right to be treated with basic human fucking decency unless we earn it by pretending to be neurotypical. It's ridiculous. This doesn't teach me positive behavior. It teaches the kids fucking self-hatred. Treat a kid like an animal long enough, they'll become one. That's just a fact. You cannot learn positive behaviors when all somebody does is focus on the negative. Eventually, you're gonna fucking snap. And then the JRC will use that as an excuse to torture you. Fucking fun, right? Writing, socializing, and living in the community. My God. All of these things can be learned by autistics and other people with developmental disabilities without torture. I am less likely to write with decent handwriting when I have someone with a fucking thumb on a remote that can torture me in a second. How am I supposed to focus on socializing when you don't even allow actual socializing unless it's a school project? They socialize in their homes? No, they don't. No, they don't. You give them token situations with staff right there with a remote control there to torture them at any time. How does that encourage actual socialization? And by the way, the few times you do let them socialize, it is only within your insane compound. You want to know how you practice socializing skills? You don't practice it on your own. You go out there and you practice it with neurotypicals. I hate to put it that way. I did get better as I got around more of my own kind. I definitely busted me more out of my shell, but without being forced out of my comfort zone, without being forced to go and do those speeches at conferences, without having to go talk to politicians, without talking to programs like ARC and all the others, about going out there in community in order to teach about different disabilities, talking to the schools, talking to borough. I wouldn't have been able to codify and develop those skills that I was learning within the community further. I wouldn't have been able to act as a bridge between two worlds without being able to go out and do that and practice and practice and practice. Token events is not socializing. It's a token event. Living in the community, you don't even let them out in the community unless your person is there with a remote control that can shock them at any time. How's that learning to ingratiate yourself with the community? In fact, it paints a larger target on your back. What does it tell the community when I have a person there that can shock me at any time, that tells the community that I am so bad that I have to be controlled by means of fucking shock? It's more than likely going to put the community in fear of that person. Not something they want to welcome into their community when they transition out. These learned positive behaviors replace the prior behaviors of self-abuse, aggression, and destruction. Oh, fuck me. ABA, but you can replace it with positive ones instead when you're triggered. Not how any of this shit works, Karen. Not how any of this shit works. Remember, you leave the triggering issue completely undealt with. It doesn't matter how many positive behaviors I can learn. If there is a issue that remains undealt with, it's still going to be there no matter what positive behaviors I have learned. And no amount of positive behaviors is going to stop the meltdown, folks. Okay? When we snap, when we go into the animal mindset, no amount of positive behaviors, or as I like to call it, neurotypical bullshit forced down my throat is going to fucking save me from brutalizing inanimate objects. This is the level of stupid we are dealing with. It doesn't, maybe it can help to an extent, yes. But when you do not marry it, to therapy, when you don't marry it to finding, focusing, and addressing the underlying issues that are producing the undesired behaviors, guess what? It's still a fucking trigger. It's still going to cause meltdowns. And if you are in meltdown, I can't tell you this enough. If you are in meltdown, there is no amount of brainwashing that is going to stop the self-abuse, aggression, or destruction. When we hit meltdown, that's fucking it. There's no negotiation. There's no going backwards. There's no talking us down. There's no shocking us out of it. Okay? I know many positive behaviors. I'm pretty good at faking being neurotypical for a set period of time. I wouldn't have gotten too far in advocacy when I was one of the few token out there doing so if I hadn't. You believe these people would have listened to me back then? If I didn't force myself to talk in a way that made them comfortable? Hate to break it to you, but no, they wouldn't have listened to me for 2 seconds. They would have written me off as a head case and signed me up for a place like the JRC without even blinking twice. It's Missouri. Okay? No amount of learned positive behaviors is going to change something if the trigger is not dealt with. We also need to live in the reality that no amount of behavioral psychological bullshit is ever going to change the fact that we are developmentally disabled. Nothing's going to change the fact I'm autistic. And that part of my diagnosis is no matter how good I am, no matter how many positive behaviors I now have, no matter how well I've ingratiated myself and become a part of the community, it's going to stop the fact that meltdowns are going to happen. I'm still stuck in a world not built for me. I'm still stuck with people who are prejudicial as fuck against me. I live in a world where people are openly hostile and ableistic as fuck to people with all kinds of disabilities. No amount of learned positive behaviors or just ignore it is going to change that. Nor is it going to change my reactions to it over time. I'm going to have meltdowns. I've accepted that. Knowing that logically, accepting that, and not beating myself over the head because of it is a very liberating thing. It means I'm dealing with reality of my situation. It means I don't feel like I should be treated like a monster because of it, over something over which I have zero fucking control. I know they're going to happen. I will try to address triggering issues as much as I can in order to minimize them, but I know they're going to happen. And there's no amount of torture or reprogramming, as ABA likes to do. There's no amount of this brainwashing behavioral psychology pseudoscience bullshit that's going to change my neurology or these facts. If you want to have effective medical treatment, you got to start dealing with what is reality. Okay? We are what we are. We are what we are. If we realize that, and then we work to deal with the underlying issues so that we can at least minimize the not so pretty part of our diagnosis to a level to where we can at least live and work out in the community, have friends, and have at least some form of a life. That is what we should be shooting for. Not living in la la land thinking Dr. Israel's cocktail of torture, starvation, sleep deprivation, and trauma is going to suddenly change your child into a completely normal person who never melts down. It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen because we can't change how our minds develop as autistic individuals. Our brains are not the same as yours. They're never going to be. There's no amount of ABA or forced masking that's ever going to change what and who we really are. The hardest thing as an adult autistic I had to do was unlearn everything society taught me. To learn to accept myself, my positive points, as well as my not so good points, to accept my neurology as a whole and not condemn myself for it, to accept myself as I am. And in accepting myself, also realizing that I am worthy of human decency. I am worthy of respect. I am worthy for being treated as a human being on my own goddamn merits as my authentic autistic self. And I should not accept by anyone anything less than that. Anything less than that. It's a liberating thing, folks. Accepting your reality, but also realizing your worth. Not as a person who they tried to mold and force you into being, but as you really are at your core. At all the realities, all the faults, all the fun, not so fun shit that has to do with our particular diagnosis and how our brain works, accepting all of it. Accepting the realities. Accepting myself. Faults from my diagnosis included. And to know my own worth and to be demand. I'm not asking. I demand to be treated with the respect and human dignity that I deserve. Period. I should not be tortured into more positive behaviors because that's not gonna change anything when the meltdown happens. I can tell you that. We got to get out of this fantastical thinking that through ABA or through whatever pseudoscience bullshit they want to throw at us this week, that is somehow going to change your child into your magical wish child of romanticized normal that doesn't actually exist even in the neurotypical world. Matter of fact, this romanticized idea of normal is something that even these parents will never be. I'm going to close on that. We don't get very many views on this channel, especially on this subject. Actually, no, I want to go off on this a little bit. GRC's idea of effective treatment is ruling through fear. What do we know from human history? And yes, in spite of popular opinion, we are human. Fear only lasts so long before we rebel. Now I'll close out on that. We don't get very many views on this channel. The few that we do tend to get removed from time to time. So please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe, and don't forget to hit the comments. I do appreciate your time this morning. And as always, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. Bye-bye.